You know, what if there was this ancient text that held a revolutionary blueprint for a life of real, actual meaning? A way to connect what we believe deep in our hearts with how we really live our lives, day in and day out. Okay, let's dive into this, because the 50th chapter of Isaiah, it offers exactly that. It's this powerful and frankly, surprisingly relevant guide to a life that truly, truly matters.
Right out of the gate, this chapter opens with a bang. I mean, this is not a gentle suggestion. It's a full blast trumpet call, a divine confrontation. God is commanding the prophet to shout, to hold absolutely nothing back, and just lay bare the sins of his people. It is intense, it's super direct, and it immediately makes you ask,
So, who is on the receiving end of this fiery accusation? Your first thought might be, oh, it's the outsiders, the pagans, the people who are obviously wicked. But, well, the real answer is way more shocking and probably a lot closer to home than any of us would expect. That's right. God is confronting his own people, the ones who show up to worship, who check every single religious box, who, on the surface, look like they're seeking him every day and delighting in his ways. The crisis isn't with people outside the faith. It's with the insiders who've gotten really, really good at the performance of devotion. And this brings us right to the heart of the problem. There's this dangerous disconnect between all the outward religious activity and the inward reality of their lives. It's a crisis of worship, where doing all the right rituals just isn't producing a righteous life. I mean, just look at this stark contrast here. On the one hand, their worship looks perfect. They're seeking God, they're studying his ways. But then you look at their actual everyday lives, and it's full of injustice. They're exploiting their employees, they're constantly fighting, they're just pursuing their own selfish pleasure. The two sides of the ledger, they just don't add up. There's a brilliant phrase for this: functional atheism masked as devotion. It means they say all the right things, but their actions prove they don't actually believe God is watching or that he even cares how they treat other people. Their lives completely contradict their liturgy, and it just makes all their worship hollow. So God just steps in with this deeply sarcastic question. They're doing all this stuff, fasting, humbling themselves, and they're wondering why God isn't impressed. And he basically asks, really? You think this is what I want? And that question, that's the pivot. It just dismisses their entire empty religion and sets the stage for God to reveal what he's actually looking for. And the solution he offers is radical. God isn't asking for a better, more sincere version of their self-denial. He is completely redefining the entire concept. The fast that he chooses isn't about giving things up for yourself. It's about giving of yourself for other people. It's about real, world-changing action. So God's chosen fast has these incredibly clear, actionable steps. It starts with big picture, systemic justice, loosing the chains, breaking the yokes of oppression. Then it gets super practical with tangible mercy, sharing your food, opening your home, and finally it all culminates in relational restoration, literally rebuilding the fabric of community and family. And you know, this idea isn't just a one-off in Isaiah. Centuries later, James echoes the exact same principle over in the New Testament. Any belief that doesn't actually translate into tangible action, meeting the real physical and emotional needs of the people around you, it's useless. It's a dead faith.
okay, and this is where it gets absolutely incredible. Because when we align our lives with God's priorities, with this true fast of justice and mercy, he unlocks this cascade of just mind-blowing promises. The payoff for living this way is nothing short of breathtaking. Get this. The chapter lists at least 12 distinct, guaranteed promises. This isn't wishful thinking. This is a covenantal guarantee. When you live out the fast God chooses, these results aren't a possibility, they're an inevitability. It's not a maybe, it's a for sure. And just listen to what's on the table here. We're talking about total breakthrough, clarity when you're confused, your light will break forth, rapid restoration when you're broken, your healing will quickly appear. You get divine protection, a direct line to God where he actually answers when you call, and constant unwavering guidance. Wow. And don't think for a second this is about a life of grim, joyless sacrifice. No, the promise is one of sustainable abundance. Just picture it, a well-watered garden, fruitful, beautiful, just teeming with life, or a spring whose waters never ever fail, a constant source that just gives and gives without ever running dry. That's a life of generosity without depletion. But, okay, how do you sustain a life like that, right? How do you avoid total burnout while you're pouring yourself out for others?
Well, the chapter wraps up with the final, crucial piece of the blueprint, the principle of rest. So check out this comparison. The people's corrupted fast was totally self-focused. It was all about what's in it for me, and all it did was produce conflict. But a true Sabbath rest? That's God-focused. It's a time to actually delight in Him, to realign with His heart. And from that place of rest and delight, true justice just flows naturally. So what this shows us is that justice and rest, they aren't opposites, they are partners. You cannot be a repairer of ruins if you yourself are collapsing from exhaustion. The Sabbath isn't an escape from the work, it is the sustainable power source for the work. And this all builds to the ultimate identity that's promised to those who embrace this whole blueprint. You become known as a repairer of broken walls. This isn't just about doing a few good deeds. It's about becoming a fundamental agent of restoration in a broken world, closing the gaps and bringing back hope where it's been lost for a long, long time. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Your new identity is tied to generational restoration. This is a call to step into broken systems, fractured relationships, and hurting communities, things that have been in ruins for ages, and to begin the work of rebuilding, of making them places where people can truly live and thrive again. And that brings the question right back to us, doesn't it? This ancient text isn't just information, it's an invitation. It stops being a historical document and becomes a personal calling. So if you look at your own life, your family, your community, your work, what broken walls, what ancient ruins are you being called to repair? And the chapter ends with the ultimate mic drop, the final guarantee. This phrase means that all of these promises, this entire blueprint for a life that matters, isn't just a good idea or a nice theory. It is a divine declaration, a promise sealed with the full authority of the one who spoke the entire world into existence. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken.